I think we get really caught up in being the perfect version of ourselves at all time that we don't really allow ourselves to experience some of these negative feelings that we actually have. It is okay that you are not okay. You don't have to pick yourself up immediately. You guys, I'm not feeling my best today, so I do have a cup of tea with me. I'm not necessarily spilling tea, but it is something that is keeping me comfortable and feeling a little bit better. And it's honestly a little on theme with today's episode because we are talking about bouncing back when something happens to you. So last year was very challenging for me. I lost my job, I lost my grandma on my dad's side. I had a lot of really big major life shifts, and it has been a little, to say the least. And I know we are currently in what is a season of typically seasonal depression. January and February is a little rough on the system. There's a lot going on, and you're still kind of recovering from the holidays. People are getting sick left and right, and it's just like not really the funnest time, in my opinion. And typically, where I'm at, winter is just getting started in January. So it's not really a lot to look forward to. And right now, we are in a season where you kind of feel all of that. If you have experienced anything similar to me, I know the job market's crazy. I know the holidays is really hard when you're dealing with grief. So it's coming off of just a lot of different things from the past year. And when you're going through something like this, it can be really easy to go back into old cycles and kind of become a worse version of yourself. Even when you're on a journey of self growth, something devastating happening can really throw off some of your progress. For me, when I lost my job, I kind of wanted to keep going and wake up every morning, keep my schedule, because I kind of have been here before. When I very first started this podcast, I had recently quit my job, and so I kind of know ball when it comes to being fun employed, I like to say, and trying to figure it out all at the same time. And at least for me, I knew if I keep one thing constant, I will not lose my mind. I will not freak out. Like, let me wake up every morning, work out, and try and keep at least a somewhat regular schedule. But then my grandma passed away like 2 weeks after I got laid off. Actually, the week that I got laid off, I was told a few days prior that she was on hospice and probably didn't have a lot of time left. So I already knew it was coming. And then 2 weeks later, it happened. So it was kind of just a lot to process at once. And it threw a wrench in what I thought was a new schedule that I had figured out, or a new plan that I was trying to kind of put into place. And for like a week and a half, I just didn't do anything. And I honestly felt a little frustrated with myself. Like, why can't I get up? Why can't I make myself go and do this thing? Why do I feel like I have to sit on the couch and watch an entire season of a show today? Why can't I just keep going? And because I was trying to force myself to just jump right back into it, I was not allowing my system to process all of the things that had happened. If you're an ambitious person, I'm sure you can relate a little bit to where I'm coming from, where you don't know how to necessarily sit still. And so when you are forced to sit still, you start to feel a little guilty for sitting still, even though it is much needed and much deserved. Here's what I figured out to help myself bounce back a little bit when something feels really. And when I say something, it doesn't necessarily have to be a major loss or anything like that. It can just be something not going your way or in your favor, or something you were really looking forward to. Maybe it didn't happen. Like, whatever is making you feel this way is 1000% valid. My recent examples just happen to be major losses. So that is kind of where I'm coming from, but they don't necessarily have to be huge or major to be able to follow some of these tips. First things first, give yourself the time your body is demanding. Whether that's rotting on your couch, whether that is indulging within limits to certain foods that you really like, sulk, be sad, be upset, sit in your feelings, and genuinely rest. If your body is telling you that you need to sleep and it's 3 p.m. in the afternoon, take a nap. Like, don't force yourself to just be up and continuing to go as if everything is normal, or as if your feelings aren't hurt, or as if the thing never happened, right? I think we get really caught up in being the perfect version of ourselves at all time that we don't really allow ourselves to experience some of these negative feelings that we actually have. It is okay that you are not okay. You don't have to pick yourself up immediately. So take the time that you need, but don't take too much time. I think that's the key. Some of us are very hesitant to even give ourselves time at all. And then some of us maybe are a little bit over generous with how much time we do give ourselves. Because as you're on a journey of self-growth, you don't want to lose all of that progress in the process of experiencing some of these hardships. So I like to give myself 24 to 48 hours to feel bad or be upset or really genuinely feel however I feel about what happened before I try to pick myself back up and get back into somewhat of a routine. In my most recent example, it took me about a week. You need to also be mindful of your circumstance and understanding and patient with yourself, because your body is going to tell you and give you signs of what you actually need. So in a perfect world, yes, I'm only giving myself a day to really process some of these things, or 2 days or whatever. I guess not process, but to feel some type of way, to really gutturally experience those feelings and like shut everything else out. That would be my perfect scenario, but everything is not perfect. And that is especially what we're about on Let's Have Breakfast, is building our dream lives imperfectly, because it's messy and it's hard and every day is not going to be amazing and great. And so for the bad days, it is okay to take that time. Just don't sit in it for too long and start to lose yourself, because you've already made so much progress. It would really be a shame to reverse everything you've already done and then have to almost double it because of everything you're also going through on top of it. So once you've allowed yourself to have some of that time, your next step is to make a game plan. So you need to think about what your next steps are. If you are experiencing a major loss like I did with my job, some of my next steps were to look at some of the memberships that I had and start canceling them, thinking about what number I needed to make a month to be able to sustain my life and to literally still have a roof over my head. There are certain things when something happens that you are going to have to deal with, and that do require you to face things head on. So that is why it's really important to take the time you need to feel your feelings and sit in it before you have to tackle the hard things. I was very sad to have to face the reality of canceling Spotify Premium, because I have been a Spotify girl for the past 3-4 years. It made me really sad to think about some of the streaming platforms that I was going to have to cancel with shows that I'm actively watching, because I need to cut my budget down. And that is just the reality of my situation. So instead of ignoring what the reality is or why something is the way it is, we can sit there all day and go in circles on how shitty something is. I understand that. I get it. But that's why it's important to take the time ahead of making your plan, so that way by the time you are making your plan, you are ready to jump into action and just tackle it head on. And maybe for something that's not necessarily a major loss, your next steps might be to tweak your everyday routine or to make a change because this is why this happened, or just thinking about the cause and effect of how you can do something better. That might be a helpful step as you're building your next plan there. The key here is just making sure you are so super honest with yourself on what needs to be done for you to be successful. It may be hard, it may be uncomfortable, but that is what you need to do as you're making a plan to rebuild, so that way you don't set yourself up for failure. And you also don't have to have everything figured out. You don't have to do everything at once, but you do need to have an understanding of what your immediate next actions should be, so that way you are all good. Once you have a good idea of what kind of action you need to take, do the hardest thing first. Do the hardest thing first. The hardest thing can be an array of things, whether it's physical, mental, whatever it is, just whatever you deem to be the thing that might be the most time consuming or the most emotionally taxing, or whatever feels like it's going to be a challenging task. Do that first. I've talked a lot about losing my job, so finances was a huge thing that was hard. I had to think through every financial situation and look at my bank account with a close eye and do an audit of like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have spent that, and got myself in the what if Olympics. And when you do the hardest thing first, everything else that follows feels a little bit easier. So, because I took the time to take a hard look at my finances, understand where I'm at, and really evaluate what my next steps had to be, it was a lot easier for me to then go back and cancel some of my memberships or have an understanding of what I could spend monthly on groceries. Because I was doing that first, I felt a lot more comfortable to move forward and understand what I needed to do next. I think another example here, I feel like this is like the series of misfortunate events, but another example I can use here is I had my car stolen, and it was like 4 a.m. when I realized that it had been stolen, and my immediate first step had to be calling the police. And then I sat in it and I felt sad about it, and then from there I had to make a plan and do the hard thing first. The hard thing was figuring out what insurance was going to do and figuring out what I wanted to do next. Do I want a new car? What kind of budget do I have for a car? What does it look like to get a new car? I've never had a brand new car. And so I used kind of this method when that happened to me then. I'm using it now, and I think it's just kind of helped me not sit in the suck and really have a little bit of a better mindset about things going into it and feeling like everything happens for a reason. So it's okay that I'm upset about something, but I don't need to sit in it forever. Obviously, everything is nuanced. Everyone has their own experiences, and I'm not here to tell you one way or another how to grieve or how to live your life. But at the end of the day, if you sit in being upset about something for too long, it is going to consume you. It's going to take over your life, and it's really hard to come back from that. So these are some of the tips that I follow to make sure that I'm able to kind of bounce back, keep myself going even when bad things are happening around me. It is a lot easier said than done. There's definitely days where I fall back into old patterns, or I feel bad about even taking the time that I know I need. It is most definitely a journey and not necessarily a linear kind of experience. And so these are just some of the things that I would, tell my best friend to follow if they're feeling some type of way or having a hard time with something. So that way I continue to see their growth. And since we're all friends here and I really care about you all deeply, these are tips that I want to pass on to you as well. So I know this season can be really challenging for a lot of people. So hopefully these tips are helpful as you are processing or going through something, or maybe you're helping a friend through something. It is hard, so give yourself grace, and you got this. You are going to come back on the other side so much better, and everything will work out in your favor. And thanks for tuning in to another episode of Let's Have Breakfast.